Welcome to the Cast and Camo podcast, where we talk about hunting, fishing, and all things outdoors. Grab your fishing rod, put on your favorite camo, or just sit back and enjoy this week's topic. Cast and Camo begins now.
Yo, 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 yo. What up, Eric?
Hey, Todd. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Oh, just peachy dandy. Ready
Welcome.
for another day.
Yeah. Welcome to Cast and Camo, everyone. We are your no pickles allowed leader. Isn't that right, Eric?
No pickles. Definitely no pickles are allowed.
Nope. Get them out. Get them out. Get them out. All right. How is the, we were just talking about this, but how far underwater is your farm right now?
At 23.
Now, is there a possibility you could take the boat that you don't have and fish in your farm fields right now?
Well, I could. My tree stand is 18 foot high.
There you
so
go.
I figure I could be above it and anchored to it if I could find the tree that it's hooked to.
Yeah.
But the water is probably going so fast through there, it wouldn't work.
Can you imagine that fishing from your deer stand? That would actually be, can we please try that? Once it gets to like 16
we'll
feet.
Wait till we'll have to let it get down. Then I could maybe row down. I don't know. Maybe, can you buy me a boat?
Yeah, we covered this last week. We're going to get you a Sea Arc boat.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah. Hi, everyone.
What's up? Welcome in. Yeah, welcome in, everybody. Bobcat, thanks for that resub. Appreciate you. Let's just get right into it, don't we? So we're talking to people. If you guys are watching, we were just talking about this earlier. Eric had somebody come to the Chief Fox TV channel on Twitch, but he found Eric from Cast and Camo on YouTube. So we'll have to, and apparently it was a little difficult for them to find Eric, and they're still trying to find me. Good luck. I hide on purpose. But we'll make a couple adjustments to get our names showing up, our Twitch names on here, so everybody can see that on YouTube. But if you're watching later on YouTube, we are on Twitch, Cast and Camo. We are live every Sunday night at 7 p.m. Central on Twitch under the name Cast and Camo. Eric and I do both stream individually on Twitch, fishing, hunting. Eric does gaming. I'm Vexus_X, and he is Chief Fox TV. If you go to our website, which is www.castandcamotv.com, both of our Twitch channels are listed in our live links as well as the Cast and Camo link. So check that out. And we're gonna have new merch. We're gonna have some no pickle merch coming soon. How about that? No pickles. We are your no pickle leader.
So did you put like an X in it instead of the one line? Has it got like maybe like a triple X? You know, what do they call that? Isn't it Triple X, the movie? I think that would be great. We could be the Triple X pickles.
I think if somebody were to put in Triple X pickles into their Google search, I think something different might pop up that they might not want necessarily, or they do.
I didn't say they had to search for it on Google. I'm just saying we could make an emote like, the Triple X.
We do have an emote. See?
Yeah, but it's like one line. So it's like half of a shirt. You ever see them women wear them shirts that are like here and they cut across here on an angle and there's no shoulder on this side? That's what that pickle reminds me to be.
Oh, we can adjust it. We can adjust it. Swamp Bottom Bates says, Vex, a serious question. Are you allowed to shoot a deer on Twitch?
I have.
I don't know, but I've done it 3 times. So come and get me, Kappa.
Yeah, I have. I don't. They've never ever said anything, and
no.
And I think if they did, as quick as they catch my VODs with music on it and shut me off, I think they would definitely catch you doing that if it was against their. And this has been a talk for a long time, Swamp, on Twitch. Yeah. Can you shoot? Can you show guns? All that. And I think they kind of frown on us showing guns, but if you're gonna hunt, I don't see what it's no different than me catching a fish and taking it and filleting it on Twitch.
Yeah, I think like the one of the, to give just a quick feedback, the one little thing that I do is I put on the educational tag on the stream. I mean, that the doe that we shot this past fall on stream, when Deer Butch came out and we went and found deer, I got it out on stream. I mean, it's educational. You're prepping your food. That's really all it is. And if they have a problem with that, then call me, I guess. If we can have people dancing around in tiny little string bikinis, shaking their ass and showing their hoo-has, I don't know why I couldn't do something that's natural and legal. Right?
Well, please don't wear a bikini and dance around on your hoo-has, Todd. No, don't. That just ain't gonna work. We definitely would be banned.
Well, everybody would have to get out a microscope to see the hoo-ha, but that's a problem for another day, I think. Diana, thanks for the 150 biddies for the hoo-has. Thank you very much. All right. So anyway, back to what we were talking about. Yeah, we are on Twitch if you're watching on YouTube. If you're watching on Twitch and you want to check us out on YouTube, we are Cast and Camo TV on YouTube. If you're driving down the road and you want a podcast to listen to, we are on Apple Podcasts. We are on Spotify Podcasts. We are on SoundCloud. Look up Cast and Camo Podcasts on both Apple Podcasts and Spotify Podcasts. Join in on the fun. We're all over. Go to our website, like I mentioned, www.castandcamotv.com. All previous episodes are there. All links to every guest we've had, whether it's a Jamie from Chick of the Woods to sign up for one of her classes from last week, survivalists, survival instructors, or guides. We've had a number of guides on. All of those links are on the website. Support those people, and don't forget to support our partners and our sponsors. If you are watching on YouTube, all of our sponsors' links are down below in the description. So feel free to check out those links. And if you're in our Twitch chat, you'll see the scrolling bar at the bottom giving you the commands to drop into chat if you would like. The first one, !BBQ, that's Texas Select Seasonings. Enter Cast and Camo in all caps to get 15% off your order. I looked, by the way, Eric, I do have that vodka glaze.
Oh, you do?
Yep, I do.
Did you taste it at all? It's a liquid, correct?
Yeah,
it's
correct.
in a jar, liquid.
Yep,
all right.
Yep.
So did you taste it yet at all?
I didn't want to open it until I use it. Based on what I read, it looks like it's not, I don't think you would use it, and maybe you could. I'd have to probably ask Bill, but it didn't look like you'd use it like on if you're making a chicken right now. It's like if you were to smoke a chicken or something like that. But I could be completely wrong. I was just reading the instructions, but it sounds delicious and it looks tasty. But I haven't opened it yet.
I just wondered whether it's like, I don't know, like ribs, pork, stuff like that. Whether you would put it on in the beginning or wait until the last half an hour of smoking it or whatever, or cooking it, then you put it on.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't remember. I think it explains that on the bottle. But I didn't. Right. I didn't study it. I'm not.
It is a vodka. It is a vodka glaze, and it's what else is in it? Vodka.
There's some jalapeno or something like that. Something with a little kick. I forget what it's called. I forget what all. I should have brought it down.
Is there pineapple in it?
Maybe.
What is? Hold on.
Like raspberry. Is it raspberry? I don't. Great job, Cast Camo, remembering all of Bill's new products.
Yeah, I know. That's
oh well. It is new. I don't even know if it's on his website. Is it even on his website yet?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Definitely. I just got to find it. Wow.
Well, while you find that, I'll cover the next group of people. Exclamation point Sea Arc. Go to that link. Check out all of the new Sea Arc boats. It's that time of year. If you want to fish in Eric's farm fields, because you can fish them right now, go get a Sea Arc boat and start fishing for those big blue cats in the cornfield. And you might catch a whitetail. You never know. You never know. You might snag in. You might snag into the one that Eric shot last year.
Oh no,
that was low. I take it back. I take it back.
That was real low. We're not going to talk about that one.
Nope, not going to talk about it. I've been there. You know this. You and I have had multiple discussions about that. Next on the list, Deer 30, exclamation point Deer 30 in chat. Again, these links are all down below in the YouTube description. Cast and Camo 24 to get 24% off. Now is the time. Once those floods are gone, Eric's they're going to be planting corn. They're going to be planting beans. They're going to be laying down minerals for those deer so they can grow another big old buck for Eric to shoot again this year. So get all of your deer mineral and deer food needs at Deer 30 with 24% off. It's still a huge discount.
It's a lot.
And it is. Nobody gets 24%. I still don't even know how we got 24%, but we got 24% off. That's a big deal. Next on the list, exclamation point Vexen Fishing. Use Cast and Camo in all lowercase to get 15% off your order. Rods, reels, lures, you name it, bags, rod holders. They've got all the stuff. I keep checking. The new shirts and everything have not come out yet. I am anxiously awaiting the new design and anxiously waiting to get some new shirts. Hopefully soon. But Gamer got his rods. So a little funny story about the Vexen rods. Remember when we had Vexen on and Gamer ordered his rod while we were live? He sent me a message this week and he said, I ordered the wrong freaking rod. I ordered a casting rod. I meant to click on the spinning rod. And so he had contacted Vexen and they were more than happy to exchange that. Of course, he was going to have to pay for shipping, which would have ended up costing more than the actual rod that he paid for.
Oh my God.
Because UPS is like that. So they were trying to get creative on how to work with them, and which was great to hear. It was nice to hear that somebody that we're partnered with is trying to take care of the people from our community that are ordering things from them. Ultimately, where it laid was he's just going to buy a different reel. He's going to buy a casting reel, which why not? I was
going to say it might be cheaper just to buy the casting reel.
Exactly. And but he said he loves it. He said it's a great rod. So if Gamer's giving it that high of ratings, and I have an ice rod. I liked it. And a little panfish ice rod. It was great. What are we missing? We are missing Oh Behave, exclamation point bees, Cast and Camo in all caps to get 10% off your order. All natural products made by a single female company, all natural. She gets her bees from Wisconsin, or not the bees, but the juice. You like it, the juice? I get you more juice.
You mean the honey?
Yeah. Okay. Beeswax, actually. I don't think she makes it with the honey.
Yeah, pour the honey in.
Yeah.
So that was salted vodka, grapefruit, smoky barbecue.
Grapefruit. That's what it was.
Grapefruit smoky. Get it right.
Grapefruit smoky. Gamer was just talking about you. We were just talking about you. Gamer wins yet again. He wins every week. He's lucky. He is lucky. All right. So it is spring and we're a little late on this topic, but better late than never. And I joined a bunch of groups on Facebook on this topic because it interests me. And I have zero experience with it. I've never done it. I've never been around people that have done it. So I wanted to learn, and I started scouring these groups to find the one guy that I think we could trust on the show that is knowledgeable. And I found him. And I tell you what, I'm glad I did, because I can tell he's a great guy. We met on Friday night and had a great conversation. We were having a great conversation before the show started with Eric, and I'm glad to have it. It's just a normal guy this time. He's not a guide. He's just a normal dude like us that is passionate about a product and a topic. And who better to not have on than somebody that knows their stuff? All right, so let's bring Joe on right now. All right, well, welcome, Joe. Welcome to Cast and Camo. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Eric, Todd. Thank you for all the nice words. I'm excited to be here, and
Awesome.
Hopefully we can sucker some more people into making syrup.
Well, so here's the thing that I'm going to tell you. The one thing that scares me about this is it seems simple, but yet I know it's probably not. And it's one of those things where I would love to get into it, but do I really need another hobby that's going to take up time, energy, space, and money? Probably not. But has that ever stopped me before? Not really. Not really, I guess. And Eric, you said you did it growing up with your granddad, tapping trees and making syrup.
Yeah.
I'm jealous because I've never had the chance to learn. Can we start with just like a high level overview of the steps, the high level steps of what it is and what it takes to get to a tree, find the trees, know which trees, and then what you do as far as getting the sap and then the process after, just high level, super high level?
You're asking me that?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Well, that's why you're here.
The first step is collection. And with collection, you want to identify your tree species. Most people are talking about the hard maple or the maple family. You got the traditional, more northeastern hardwood. You got a lot of red maples, and you have silver maples. So you got to collect this sap. You got to get it out of the tree, and that's what we call collection. And then there is, the old way was evaporation. Then you're going to go down and you're going to cook it, and you're going to take out 70% of the water until you get to 66 bricks. I don't know all them numbers. I don't remember all that stuff. So you got collection, reduction, and then filtration. So once you get this syrup, it's full of precipitated minerals. It's full of a lot of magnesium, I believe, calcium. And when you boil it, it all comes out in this, we call it niter. It's like stuff that would stick on the side of the toilet. And if you scrape that all off, or a calcium ring somewhere, you got to get that out of your syrup. It's not very appealing to the public.
Is there a specific name for that?
Niter.
Okay. Yes. And
if
is there
say
something you can actually
in the sugar community, they'll know what you're talking about.
Okay. And you can actually use that though, right? For something?
Yeah, there's a guy in Wisconsin, the maple dude, that has used it in skincare products. The University of Vermont. Did you know you can get your doctor in maple?
I had no idea. No.
Yeah. I go to these conferences and they're talking on scientific level about every aspect of maple. And I find out they're doctors of maple, So they have done some research into every aspect of maple, and they found that the minerals can be very, very, very beneficial to your skin health. Huh. And so, just like anything, marketing is the name of the game. And there's a guy in Wisconsin, the maple dude. He's got a kind of a comedic marketing plan, and he's doing everything maple there is. It's just fun to watch him. So yeah, there are some beneficial, and they say there's minerals in maple syrup that you just can't get anywhere else, and micronutrients, because basically it's minerals from the ground that tree needs to survive.
Sure.
And we're consuming it in little bits, and it's good. I consume a lot of
it. I have to assume it's better for you than the store-bought maple syrup.
It is. While the store-bought maple syrup is 50% or more refined corn sugar. And the problem with that is I hate beating on any farmer. Don't get me wrong. They're great marketers, right? They're great product developers. But in that corn sugar, it's converted over. Sucrose is the simplest form of sugar, and that's what our body likes. And that's what maple syrup sap is. As you process it, it changes into this fructose and glucose, and that's a chain molecule. And if you're out of balance, what our body isn't used to digesting, the high fructose part, that's really bad. And so the maple syrup, if you're going to ingest sugar, it's a more balanced sugar that your body's used to consuming. It's more like natural food starches that get converted to sugar.
Sure.
So
you're telling me there's a chance I can go back to having syrup if I consume the natural maple syrup.
What was that?
So you're saying I can actually go back to having maple syrup and I'm not going to worry about it being bad for me.
Well,
or as bad.
I mean, too much sugar, you're giving your body the nutrients without the fiber is the problem.
Right.
Or in that tree sap, I'm going to take 60 gallons of it and put it in a gallon. You're going to consume, 3 gallons of sap in 3 ounces of syrup. And that's kind of cheating nature. So everything in moderation, right?
That's right. That's
why we put it on pancakes and we don't put it in our mug.
Yeah, I think I've known people to put syrup in their mug. I don't know.
Oh, I did this. My first batch was so strong in vanilla, I just couldn't stop drinking it.
Eric, maybe that's what you need to start doing with your coffee. Put it in your coffee.
I do. I don't put syrup in, but I do use sorghum a little bit sometimes, but I do honey most of the time.
Oh, sure.
Honey's another good sweetener. There's a lot of stuff in honey that you can't get anywhere else.
Right.
Exactly. Guys should have a tablespoon of that every day, no matter what.
Yeah, and my granddad used to tell me that too. That's where I learned it from, was him. He always put a teaspoon or a tablespoon of honey in his coffee every morning. So instead of using sugar.
Yeah, sure.
Makes sense. White sugar is a nasty thing if you really know the history of it.
Yeah.
And then the way it's refined, it's not a pretty thing.
Unlike us, we're refined and we're pretty.
you guys are good looking, I'll tell you.
All right, we like Joe. All right. So again, keep in mind, I know nothing about any of this, other than I've heard people will say, and I think when we were talking with Walleye, he said 40 gallons makes 1 gallon. Is there a specific ratio, or does it kind of depend on the tree or the type of tree? Because I know you don't have to just use a maple tree. There are other trees that you can do this with.
Right. People will use walnut, birch. So the deal is you measure the sap coming out of the tree. Traditionally out east, it's less than 2% sugar. Lots of times it's 1.5% sugar. And the Jones rule used to be 86 divided by your sugar percentage. So if you had 2%, that'd be 43. It would take 43 gallons of sap to make a gallon of syrup. Now they say it's 89. It's probably not exactly 89, but close enough. You're going to boil over anyway and spill some. So anyway, you take 89 divided by your sugar percentage, and that's how many gallons of sap it'll take. Different regions have different sugar content. I live in a very cold for a very long region, and I'm told that will increase sugar content. Most springs we start at 3.5%. So now we're talking the ratio is less than 30-1. And, you can really make some syrup. 2 years ago, I collected 3 days in a row at 5%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. My wife she cooked that Sunday and she made 25 gallons in 5 hours. And I struggled some seasons to do that in a season.
Oh, wow.
So if we go back to the basics, after collection, what's that?
No, go ahead.
Well, there's many different ways to collect. Tradition was a bucket. You drill a hole in a tree, you pound the spile in, you hang a bucket on.
Yep.
A lot of people still do that, anywhere from one bucket to several thousand. I talked to many people this fall that will have 2,000 to 3,000 buckets, and they collect them with all kinds of means, 4-wheelers, whatnot. Then there's also, that's all gravity because it drips out of the tree into that bucket.
Mhm.
Then there's also tubing systems that will connect all the trees into one collection tank that run on gravity, and that just saves from going to every tree. Then people added vacuum systems, and that increases production incredibly. It's just, and now they're able to turn them on out east in certain climates. They're making syrup at Christmas time, and they'll make it all the way till now.
Wow.
Their sap will run right into their sugar house, and nobody, well, I shouldn't say nobody, but most people of any size, and even the small guys, are running their sap through a reverse osmosis now to basically concentrate the sugar level. And what that does is it can take out 60% of the sap or the water very quickly and easily. So if you're going to run a 2% sugar content through it, it's pretty easy for me to get it up to 8%. And I have a 2-pass RO. And, I can take 600 gallons and turn it down into 150 gallons that I have to boil. And then it's a
so much.
Yeah, it is. It is. And it's really changed the way syrup is made. It's changed how much syrup we can make. Everything used to be wood fired. Now there's a lot of gas fired. There's a lot of fuel oil fired. Now they got steam boilers. They have they have cookers that are under vacuum. It's I am just a little guy on the corner of the syrup that is fascinated by it, loves to make it, and wants to learn as much as he can about it. But
what was your process growing up, Eric?
The bucket.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking several years ago. They didn't have all these lines hooked to trees like we do here. Because I can go down the road here and hit the Amish area, and every tree has a line running out of it for miles. They just it's strung through every place, and that's how they make their money. They make big money off of, but there's a lot of work involved in it too.
It is.
It just, one of the questions I had for you. So when I grew up, my granddad always told me, as soon as you start getting the buds on the tree, stop it, because it doesn't make, once they start to form the leaves on the trees, it kind of makes the syrup turn a total different taste.
You're right.
Okay.
The flavor profile for me changes all throughout the season.
Right.
The silver maple, I think, has the widest range of profile versus the hard maple. I don't know that much about the red. And with that said, you see, it's a faster tree. It's like a 90-day corn versus a 110-day corn.
Mm-hmm.
So it buds quicker. You're going to get an off flavor. It's a stronger, they'll call it robust when it's in the hard maple, because it's just a stronger, deeper flavor. But the silver will add a little bit too much bitterness.
Right.
And I'm trying to learn. See, I've told that the silver maple turns to this sucrose and fructose quicker.
Okay.
And that sugar, I need to learn more about cooking, I think burns at a lower temperature. And that's where the bitterness comes from. A guy just mentioned that in that glaze. I was reading the comments on the glaze, and he says, don't put it on until 10 minutes of the cooking. Otherwise, you're going to burn it and make it bitter because it has sugar in it.
Right.
And that sugar is high fructose sugar.
Right.
So, yeah, there's a lot to learn, and I just want to learn as much as I can. So I didn't boil a lot of my sap this year because of the buddiness. But since then, I've learned there's a place for all this sugar. And I'm not going to be in this position to do that again. I am going to be in a position to make it and sell it at a commercial level instead of a table level.
Okay.
And it's a big industry, and there's a lot to learn, and the Facebook groups, you can learn a lot.
So you don't sell it now? You just
I bottle and sell. I have a regional grocery store that I sell wholesale to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, and I've been working on that for 25 years, and my market's unlimited.
So our viewers do you have a place that we can buy?
So here's my label.
Uh-huh.
I sell in Hy-Vee.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So right now I have Austin and Albert Lee in Minnesota, a store in Rochester, Minnesota, West Circle Drive, Cass in Minnesota, and one store in Mason City, Iowa. And I wanted to add a store this year, but Mother Nature didn't give me.
You don't have a store in Kentucky?
No, I don't.
Oh, we got to set that up. Todd, send me the money. I'm going to open up a store. We're just going to have a maple syrup. Yep.
Oh, we'll just use your kitchen. Pam won't mind.
There's a bunch of maple syrup people in Kentucky and West Virginia.
There's a ton right here beside me.
Is it? What's your elevation? That can help if you're a little higher. If you're south.
No, I'm not high. Believe me.
Yeah, because you're on the river.
That you gotta. So the Amish are like 30 miles from me, and I can drive down this road, and when I hit their territory, every tree has lines running everywhere. Now it has a few little hills. They're probably a little bit higher than we are. I don't know what my elevation is here exactly, but.
They have a finicky season too, then I'm guessing, because you can warm up in the middle of your season and it can ruin your sap.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, is it true the colder the weather at night and then the warm mornings makes that sap? I mean, that's what my granddad used to tell me all the time. He'd be like, "Oh, we got to get it really cold tonight for it to stop, and then tomorrow it's supposed to be like 60 degrees. You know, when the leaves ain't here, it's right as the weather's changing. And our buckets would always be full when we'd go out and check them on them days. So we had that cold snap and then the real higher temperature. Yeah.
The freezing and the thawing creates a pressure gradient difference. And it can be both ways. It can be positive and negative. I've seen videos where they have pressure gauges in trees and then along with time and temperature.
Right.
And it's fascinating. Let me tell you, it's like wild what's going on in there. But yeah, you're right. At least 28 degrees for a couple, 3-4 hours is nice.
Mm-hmm.
And then I like to see a 50-degree day. And the other thing is I'd say is early in the season, it takes a lot more for them to run. You know, it's like you go out for us that first day of March and, hey, it's 45 and sunny and there's no wind and it just feels beautiful. You go out in that sugar bush and they're just locked up tighter than a bull's butt because they've been cold for a long time.
Right.
Yeah.
But then you can go out on the 10th of April. It'll be 32 degrees and cold and the wind will be blowing and them trees will just be running like a sow, you know, because it's late in the year and the ground is all thawed. So do you get much frost in Kentucky? You must not.
No, we don't. Now we do get some, but our frost line, I think here is like 6-7 inches.
Yeah. We got 5 feet.
I was going to say versus 6 or 7 feet for us.
Yeah.
6 or 7. I don't like to stretch it too much.
We've had some cold winters where I'm sure it's got down more than that. But normally the last I think I heard we're like 6-7 inches on the frost line. Most of the time. Yeah.
So with that said, that deep frost, our early runs will be small. Lots of times I'll call it nuisance sap. And this year was a prime example. We didn't have much snow, but we had cold. I know we had over 5 feet of frost. And I tapped on the Tuesday in February, the last Tuesday, and they were running. And I collected that Friday night. And I only collected like, I don't know, 150 gallons. And I have 450 taps. I'm lucky that it all comes to 2 places, right?
Right.
And that sap was fine because it was cold. It froze every night. You know, it never got above 45. But then now, like this last week, I was making 600 gallons every day. And that's just because now their ground is totally thawed out. They can draw moisture out of the ground. They were kind of delayed because we were cold for so long. And now they're in a hurry up mode. That's what I call it.
So there was a question that came into chat, which is a good question. It was on my list of things to bring up too. So we'll bring it up now. Is there a difference between the darker and the lighter syrups? Is it the time of year that you're harvesting it? And that was one of the things that I was noticing. Some pictures from people there literally would have 3 different shades from the same harvest area. What is the difference in the color? What does that tell you?
Traditionally, your light syrup start in the beginning of the season, and as you progress, you go darker. I've been seeing cold snaps will lighten it back up. Warm weather usually darkens it because bacteria will be more prevalent in your sap, and that tends to darken it. People now will add air bubbler in their evaporator to add oxygen, and they say that will lighten it up. There's a bunch of different tricks, but Mother Nature, typically, I think it has a lot to do with temperature. Colder, fresher sap, cleaner conditions makes lighter syrup. And that's why, Eric, when you were young, your grandpa probably strived to do that, and it was hard to do.
Yeah.
You know, the only time you could do it was when all your equipment was fresh and there wasn't a lot of pollen blowing around on a 55-degree windy day. You know, and all your open buckets, it's contaminants. And if you let your sap sit for 2 days and you start to get some bacteria growth in there, and anytime you consume something, you know, there's a waste product. You know, I always looked in the evaporator, and when I'm having a high foam situation, I know that I have sap that's probably not as fresh as I'd like it. You know, and I see that towards the end of the season.
Okay.
So that's my idea on it.
There you go, coffeeologist. That's again, great question. I had that on my list. So with the colder temperatures, is this why Canada has better maple syrup than we do? Is that why they tout themselves on having like the best maple syrup from Canada is because it's colder there?
They're just 3 times bigger than us.
Oh, they are?
Yeah. As far as maple syrup production, they make 70% of the maple syrup. That's why I say I'm just a kid, you know, playing around, toying. Them guys have 200,000-300,000 taps, and they're making each tap's making, what is it, a gallon of maple syrup a tap. Some of them, you know, that's
crazy.
40 gallons of sap. I think my numbers haven't been all crunched this year, but I think I'm going to be at over 16 gallons per tap for sap, which I find phenomenal. The thing that I don't like is, why do we count per tap?
Yeah, why is that?
Part of it, I think, is because some of the taps in Canada the taps on Crown Line are controlled. And so you have to put a bid in, and they only release so many, so they kind of limit how much syrup. So for them, they want to see the most money they can produce out of a tap.
Mm-hmm.
Where I live, I'm maple syruping in an old abandoned farm grove. There was one down the road that got bulldozed so they could plant corn in it. So I have to compete with corn, and I've been cleaning my lines Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and they're soaking right now in a cleaning solution. And the whole time I'm in there, I'm thinking, you know, I just dumped damn near 2,000 gallons of sap on the ground the last week because of this buddiness. And my whole sugar bush is in a little over 2 acres. And if I would have made all that syrup, it wouldn't have been good table syrup, and it's only going to be worth $20 a pound. But I probably let $1,500 worth of syrup go.
Did you cry? I would have cried.
You know what? I've had some really bad rethink moments in the last week. It's like, and I talked to a guy that sells a lot of commercial syrup, Nate Bissell, and he says, Joel, there's a place for all of it. And so I learned a bunch of stuff, and I'm not going to be in that position. I live in a place. We're very productive. We make 280 bushel corn. We raise a lot of hogs, but we have a lot of silver maples, and I think we're missing out on a huge amount of money that could be generated. I was putting the math to it, and it was like $3,300 an acre worth of syrup because I'm only on 2 acres.
Sure.
And that's a hell of a gross to me. That competes with corn. Right. And it's just like, it's new around here. It's different. And it's like, it's my life mission to get the goal out, to get people interested in doing this. And I used to be a hockey coach, and a really smart teacher said, you can judge yourself if you're a good coach or not if you have more kids in your program next year than you had this year. And so I apply that to syrup making. I got a nephew that's got a 2,400 bush. He's got 2,400 taps. That's pretty big around here. I have a good friend that's got 200. He made 45 gallons of syrup this year on those taps. And then I have another nephew that is making 4 or 5 gallons. So I feel pretty accomplished that way. I've started, I have a good friend too. So I've started 4 sugar makers that wouldn't have been. So it's just like bow hunting, right?
Yep.
If you want it to last, you got to introduce somebody into it. And when you get old and not capable and you want somebody to take you along, get a young guy to help take you along, right?
Yeah, that's why Eric's pushing his son to hunt right now. It's only a couple years away, Eric, right? Before he's got to wheel you out to your stand, and you'll have a little electric lift.
No, I'll just drive the truck out at the end of the field. Hell with that.
The ground blinds are so nice now.
If it gets that bad, see, now I park and I walk a mile to the end of the field. If it gets that bad, it's going to be either the 4-wheeler or my truck. I'll drive to my stand and park it and get out, because the deer doesn't seem to bother with the vehicles at all out there in the field.
You'll still be hunting, Eric. You might not be as successful, but you'll still be hunting, right? And I've seen a lot of deer run right by the truck when I'm in my stand.
Oh, I don't know. I bet you I've killed 2 or 3 deer down there walking back to the truck, and I get to the truck and I'm getting ready. I lay the gun against a tree. I'm taking my gear off and turn around. There's a buck or a doe staying there looking at me. And I'm like, what the heck? I didn't even have to leave the truck this time.
My brother was good at that too. Yeah. Shooting them on the way back to the truck.
Yeah. That's happened quite often.
He was with the bow though.
Yeah.
By the looks of Joe's background, he doesn't do much deer hunting at all.
No. Or ducks.
I had rotator cuff surgery about 3 years ago, and it's taken a lot of fun out of it for me because I shot everything with a bow.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Them are arrows hanging between the horns up there. Is that your killing arrows?
Robin Hood up there. My son put that up there.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Then I bought a crossbow. I don't think I killed a deer with a crossbow. When you got a deer at 70 yards, I mean, you can kill it with a crossbow, right?
Yeah,
but you still run into this trouble. You still have to know the yardage.
Yep.
Yep.
It's no different than if it's a 20 or 30. You still got to know that. And it's harder, or I don't have as much experience at those 70, 80 yards, because I'm a bow hunter and I haven't shot a lot with a gun at that range. So it's like, I always got to get the rangefinder out, and they took 3 steps.
Well, that's the problem. I was just going to say that. I use the rangefinder. I hang it around my neck. And I use it in rifle season, too, because some of my shots are 300 yards.
Yeah, you really need to know.
And you really, when you're dealing with that kind of yardage, 300-400 yards, and the deer always looks closer than what it is, Yeah. And if you start sitting there without that rangefinder saying, oh, that deer's 60 yards. But if you had a rangefinder and put it up, that deer was probably 80 yards. 90% of the time, when you think it's 60, it's 80.
Yep.
And you're going to shoot underneath the deer. So, it's
exactly
kind of
the rangefinder is a hell of a tool.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
Speaking of tools, did I hear you right the other night when we were talking? You invented something?
Okay, so I did. This is a new maple syrup tap that I came out with. It's
my Lord.
Before we even get into this,
I invented what?
I'm just gonna remind everyone where Joe is from. Joe is from Minnesota.
Yep.
And
everything was invented in Minnesota. From what I've been told.
Hey.
You know who told me that? The famous Joker told me everything was invented in Minnesota.
I don't believe that for 1 second, but
3M is a Minnesota company, and they have come up with a lot of innovation. Minnesota Mining and Machine is what 3M stands for.
Yeah.
We do have we have some really good medical companies, Medtronics here, but I'm a tool and die maker. I've been in multiple disciplines of machining, manufacturing. I worked for a window hardware company for 10 years in new product development. They were the #1 hardware manufacturer in North America, and it wasn't Anderson. So we made Marvin window stuff, Pella. It was Truth Hardware. It's been conglomerated now. But I was a model maker there, and I got to work under a whole bunch of design engineers and learn how to design products.
So, all right, so now let's talk about Buzzard. Get your chalkboard out, mark another one up for Minnesota, and then we'll hear Joe talk about his invention here.
Awesome. So I made maple. This is gonna be long. I made maple syrup for 20 years, bucket method, right, Eric? And I loved it. There's nothing better than at 5 o'clock, you're out there with your best friend and you're collecting. It's warm sunshine. You go and put the sap on the fire. You start a fire, and we cooked all night. Our process was to cook 24 hours, take it off, start a new batch, and we had it pretty dialed in. We mastered gravity filtering enough to sell in grocery stores. So I really thought I knew a lot, right? And then my friend had enough. So I had to go on my own. I wasn't willing to give it up because I had a UPC for my syrup. I had this label. I had done a lot of work. I had made a business, incorporated it. And I couldn't do all the bucket work by myself. So I had to do this tubing. And with the tubing come a reverse osmosis. And it was like, I don't know anything about any of this stuff. I got to figure out a way. And I started, my good friend Justin, the guy with the 200 taps, he got me into this Facebook group. And man, you can learn a lot. And I started to learn that I didn't know nothing about anything. The more I learned I didn't know.
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
I joined as many groups as I could, and then I joined the Minnesota Association, and they were selling a producer's manual, maple syrup producer's manual out of Vermont, Peeler, whatever. They put this big book together from, collecting all the way to marketing, having a kitchen license. And I bought that, and I could not put it down. Some of the stuff that I'd worked on for 20 years in my head was reaffirmed, and some of the stuff were all shot out of the water. So then I had to read more and more and more and more. And so with the tubing, I needed to learn more, and I joined the group, and they'd have conventions. And at these conventions, there would be all these seminars, and they'd talk about tubing sanitation, RO maintenance, sugar bush management, all these different topics that they were studying at these different universities. And you go sit on them. And the international one was in La Crosse, Wisconsin. And I signed, it's expensive to go for the whole week. You're going to go on tours. Well worth it, I found out. But I was new to it. So I just signed up for 2 days of some seminars that I wanted to see. And I went over there, and one of them was the sap profile of the tree. And they start at the bark, and there's no sap flow there. And as you go in, there's none because those straws are immature and they're not sealed up yet. So they leak. And then next year they might hold a little bit, but they're still not going to get to where you are. Usually by year 4 or 5, we'll just use that as a reference, they start to transport sap. And then a couple years later, they're very productive because now they're totally closed up and they're biggest diameters. It's like your 20-year-old boy, he's hip maturity. He just got off football camp. He's ready to go. That's the kid you want baling hay. So then they decided that current tapping practices have a really gradual taper, and they're sealing this off to gain stability, to keep this tap secured in that tree from pushing out, from freezing, from durability. They got to use a 1/2 inch of it and plug those straws. So they developed a tap that had a real steep taper, right? When they put it in the tree, it wouldn't stay in there because basically you got one wheel on your axle now.
Right.
So then they decided to put a bunch of ring grooves around it, ring barbs. And so when you put it in, there was 3 sets of them that were small, and then the next 3 were a little bigger, and the next 3 were bigger. And that stabilized it quite well. There was some trouble with it pushing out. There was some trouble with it leaking. Took a big chunk of the bark off. Anyway, my light bulb went off, and it said, hey, if this university is trying to develop a tap to take advantage of this, it's got to be real, right? They're not going to invest this money, make a mold that I can't even figure out how they made it because it had a big arc where it come out of the tree because they didn't want to have any sharp bends. They wanted to make this sap easy to flow.
Sure.
It's got to be important. And I thought, you know what? They're having trouble with that not being rigid enough. How else could we do it? It's like, if I had a little stick that would go inside the tree and had a ball on it, that would support it. And that's where I kind of come up with this idea. It's got an inner pilot bearing that is the same diameter as the hole that you drill. So as soon as you put it into that hole, it supports itself. So now as you drive it in, you get support inside the tree so it won't wiggle anymore. Now the seal area can just focus on sealing and not actually holding the load. So I made a tool. I'm in the manufacturing world, and one of my classmates has an injection molding company. I called him up, and we built a tool, 24 cavity mold, and we run it over there in Albert Lea, Minnesota, Interstate Mold and Manufacturing. I developed a website called sapmaster.net where I sell them online. I got a dealer network throughout the East. I don't know. I got 6-8 dealers. And I sold 330,000 of them this first season. I know.
Wow.
I was hoping to sell 50,000. And when I hit, I thought 100 would be really astronomical. They're not perfect. There's some issues, and we're going to address them. I think I had much more success than I've ever had, but I'm the inventor. It takes a precise person to install this tap correctly, and that is not acceptable for the syrup industry, especially when you're into hundreds of thousands of taps. So It's got to be more forgiving. But there was a study done, an independent study done across Ontario, Canada, and 85% of the people said there was significant gain, some as much as 20%. Most people saw at least a 15% gain. So I think it's worth pursuing, and I know I will overcome it and increase sap yields for farmers all across North America.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at that. Look at Joe go. That's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
I dropped the link into our chat, and I'll be sure to include that. I'll put that on the website after the show, and I'll include that in YouTube description. So if you're watching on YouTube, check out the link down below for sapmaster.net. We'll have that link there. That's
Joe,
awesome.
Can I ask you a question?
You
what
can.
is your favorite maple tree to tap?
Well, I'm so familiar with silvers, and that's all I've tapped, and that's my favorite because they're so sweet. There's just
so the sugar maple. You don't think the sugar maple is more sweeter than the silver? I don't know. I'm just
it makes a more consistent maple syrup, but the silver maple, if you ever had any silver maple early syrup, you just it's undescribable. It's such a good vanilla buttery sweet, and I don't see that in early hard maple. It's got a different light flavor. There's more flavor profile in this silver maple,
Right.
than in my experience. And if you can get 3% sugar versus 1, that's 2/3 less work where I went to school.
Right.
But our season is more condensed, which is kind of what you want, right? That's the way us Midwesterners are. We get up, get our work done, and go to the bar.
Nothing wrong with that.
The bar parking lot's always full at 4:00.
That's right.
Have you ever tapped a sycamore tree yet?
I haven't.
I just wondered what that was, because I've heard stories on sycamore trees.
I'm not familiar with them. I know they do black walnut.
Yeah.
They say that's adult syrup. That has pectin in it, and they have to remove that pectin somehow. Otherwise, you can cook the pectin to make off flavor, from what I understand.
Right.
I'm intrigued in all this. I don't know much about it, but I'm willing to learn.
Look,
the sycamore, what is this?
Is good.
This what?
So adult syrup sounds great.
Yeah, it must
idea.
have a deeper flavor profile. What's the sycamore tree like?
I don't. It's like, it's a little bit bigger than a maple tree. Most of your sugar maple or your silver maple trees.
Has that got the lighter bark that peels when it gets bigger?
No, I don't think so.
I'll have to look it up on my phone.
Yeah, if you look it up, you'll see what I'm talking about. The sycamore can be
sycamore tree.
It doesn't have a real heavy.
That looks a lot like a maple tree.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's more in that like maple category, I guess. It's a little bit bigger. It'll grow bigger than a maple, most maples.
Yeah, it looks like it.
That's got the lighter bark, don't it, or no?
Yeah, it does have the lighter bark. It doesn't have the deep bark in it.
No, it's smoother like a birch.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
So all these universities, usually at these seminars, they're always going to try to preach different breeds of trees to you.
Right.
They want the sugaring industry to try to be diverse so that in case we get a species wipeout, like say the ash borer came into the maple borer.
All right.
Could you imagine?
No, that would suck. That would be awful.
Yeah. So they're trying to push for more interest in maple or in the walnut syrup because it has a big range. You know, it goes from northern Canada. You must have walnut trees down there, don't you, Eric?
Oh, God. We got black walnut. That's the type that's bitter than are now.
Yup. Yeah, and we have those too, and they can make good syrup from them.
Yeah.
One thing, some syrup makers like out west on the Pacific, they do their syrup in the fall as it cools down.
Oh, is that right? That's weird. I never
know
knew
it
that.
is. And it's and so there's some thought of that. And I actually bow hunted, and I was sitting in a black walnut tree. I probably shouldn't have screwed my pegs into it.
Oh my Lord.
But it was in the perfect spot, and it was just straight, not a branch on it. And every time I came back to that tree, sometimes there'd be icicles 2 and 3 feet long.
Wow.
That was really, really running a lot of sap in the fall. And I just wonder, because they say the way the maple tree works, it's unique. The way it pushes the sap flow in and out, it's different than most other trees. It gets really complicated, so I don't really know that much, but I just know that when you go to these seminars, they say the maple tree is different. And that's why we're able to take advantage of so much sap. The birches and the walnuts, you don't get as much sap.
Right.
And maybe vacuums changed all that. Is anybody on there telling me I'm all full of nothing?
No,
nonsense?
they're on the edge of their seat. There was a question that aligns with something that came to my mind as well. Kind of going back to what I had said earlier. Do I need another hobby? No, probably not. The question was, is it, wait, I got to find it. I want to know the exact number she said. Is it worth tapping 2 to 3 silvers? And that was kind of falls in line with my head of, I don't know that I would be able to or want to go and have the time, frankly, to go and do all of these trees. What kind of is the minimum number of trees that I could tap to get something and it not be a complete waste of time? You know what I mean?
So one trouble I see is people that try to save sap for several days until they get enough to boil. And so I suggest, if you can, is to over tap. Okay. You can only boil Friday night and Saturday, right? And so you're trying to save sap from Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Why not just, instead of having 5 taps, have 20 taps, put them out Friday or Thursday night before you go to, bed, and then they'll run Friday. Okay. So that's one scenario, is to over tap and then dump your sap out. Make sure you got enough sap so Saturday comes, you can boil. If you just have 1 or 2 silvers and you can put 2 or 3 taps on them, and you just want to make a gallon of syrup or a half a gallon of syrup, I'm going to encourage you, right? You're not going to be efficient, but you're going to make some good food that you're going to really cherish. There's nothing going to be more satisfying when you put that on there. Do you need a hydrometer? No. Do you need it to be filtered? No. Do you need it to be canned? No. If you're going to make 2 quarts, put them in the refrigerator and decide if it was something that you like to do. If you just cook it on a turkey fryer, that's fine. I used to complain. I used to be a nitpicker. And now I've decided that however it takes you to make syrup, I'm going to encourage you the best way I can. Right?
Sure.
And if you don't want to go out or you don't have the capacity to get wood, by all means, get your propane and let's try to get it as efficient as you can. And let's make some syrup. There's women that are making it on these convection hot plates and they're swearing by it. And it's awesome, right? And yeah, so however you can do it, do it. And if you only want to do it for one weekend, that's awesome. And it's, I'm the kind of guy that, okay, if I'm going to do it, I want to try to cover my costs. I'm going to try to sell some. And if I'm boiling for 10 taps, I might as well boil for 100, and then before you know it, you really like making a lot of it. Yep, but then you've got a lot of 5-gallon pails of syrup sitting over there. And it's like, I don't want to waste this. What can I do with it? Well, then you start hitting up family and friends and you find out that only lasts so long. So you've got to develop a market for your hobby. And once you start developing a market and you find a decent one, whether it's a farmer market or a good family and friend list or a roadside stand or commercial, it's like you don't want to give up all that hard work.
Right.
You want to grow it. And the one thing that I've learned about maple syrup, and it's probably true with any kind of farming, is it's really hard to be profitable until maybe the second or third generation.
Yeah, makes sense.
I tried, and we did. For the first 20 years, we didn't hardly put any of our own money into the company. We only grew what we could sell. And then when I went on my own, I kind of did that too. I invested in a new cooker and I spent some money. So I borrowed money and I sell bundled firewood to pay for my maple syrup habit. And then through these groups, I made a comment about not wanting to spend money. And some guy said, Joe, it's only money. If it's something you like doing, just do it. And I got to thinking, I've lived tight my whole life. I've saved money. I was 60 then. I really like making maple syrup. And you know what? I'm going to spend some money and do what I like the last 10, 15 years of my life and enjoy it.
That's right.
And I got heat in my building now, insulated. I got cement on the floor with drains. So
big time.
It's just a joy to go in there And yeah, a month ago, I wish it was an all year round thing, but right now I'm really glad it's over. My hands hurt so bad.
I bet. Well, you just shoot me that address, and then when I tap my trees, I'll just drive down to you and say, "Okay, let's do this."
I have a guy that drives the sap down from Dodge Center. Comes down about 3 times a week, and he brings me his 15, 20 gallons, and we shoot the shit a little bit, and away he goes.
Have you played with, or does this even exist, infusing the syrup with flavoring, whether it's spicing it up a little bit with like a chipotle or a jalapeno or something?
Yes.
And I don't even want to say it because we are the anti-pickle leaders, but that is the craze right now, is pickle flavored everything. And I'm just waiting for you to say, yeah, the newest thing right now is pickle flavored maple syrup. And then I'm going to have to punch you in the face, probably.
So I don't know if you can tell or not, but I'm somewhat of a traditionalist.
Yeah.
And I'm from the mindset, and I'm just still trying to master 12-ounce bottles. And I don't want the complication of another flavor. It's another barcode. And I'm in a grocery store, and it probably won't work. They're selling bourbon barreled aged syrup in grocery stores, and it's doing really well. People like that. I have a really good friend. I can't even call him a friend anymore because he's outclassed me so bad. I call him, he's my mentor. Him and his wife do value added syrup, and they have the spicy cinnamon, they have the cinnamon roll cinnamon, they have the bourbon barrel, they have a vanilla bean, and he does awesome. He has sugar coated almonds, cashews, and pecans, cotton candy, cream, and yeah, they got it going on. So there are a lot of people. I know a guy that he steeps. He'll make a 150-gallon batch. He'll put a whole bunch of peppers in it for a 20-hour period to get that flavor in there, and then he bottles it, and people love it.
I'll trade you pecans for syrup. All right.
I haven't heard anybody doing pickle yet, but you shouldn't have said that.
It's coming. I'm sure it's coming. Some of those that you were listing off sound absolutely delicious. I would love to try those syrups. Oh my, not the pickled syrup. That would be nasty. Kelly said she's going to dice up pickles and put them in her pancake batter. She's taking it way too far.
Coffee flavored syrup. There's a bunch of different ones.
Yeah, I could see that. I go to like the crown made of maple maple flavored crown. I tried it by accident. I was on the golf course. You could bring those little airplane bottles on the golf course and you throw it in your cocktail. And I took a drink thinking it was normal crown, and it was maple. I'm like, oh, I mean, it was good, but I don't want to drink my pancakes. And it tastes like I was drinking my pancakes.
No. So, 1 year I was working on the road, and we're doing this as a partnership. And I got home on a Thursday night, and my son and my partner had been making syrup for 5 or 6 days straight. All the bags were full out. All the storage was full. I come in the yard. I'm excited, right? And Todd goes, "Joe, I'm done. I'm sick of it." He had a fire for 3 days straight. It was full of ashes. And I said, "I've been working my ass off. I'm going to make syrup," right? So we put the fire out. I took all the ashes out. We went out in the woods and dumped all the sap out because it was 2-day-old. I was going to have fresh. And the next day, I started making syrup. I made syrup for 3 days straight. I made like 20 gallons. And it was really late and buddy. And at the time, I thought, because it's sweet, I'm thinking, yeah, I'll be able to eat this on something. Well, you can, but not that many gallons. So it sat around for a couple of years. And then my son was on spring break, and we were making syrup. And I said, an old timer had taught me how to make moonshine, right? Gave me all this stuff. This was in the 80s. And we made a bunch of moonshine, but it's just like, take the paint off the car, 80 proof, straight white lightning. So then I said, hey, sugar, let's ferment this shit and distill it. So we did. We made about 10, 12 gallons of moonshine.
And you didn't go blind.
I didn't go blind. This guy taught me how to make it. I had all the equipment. And you would take a drink of it and you get that fiery burn. And, then when you inhale or you take your air in, there'd be this maple lingering flavor that's not sweet. That flavor profile came through not sweet. And it was so intriguing because it wasn't sweet. And that's what you were used to.
Right.
So then my nephew that bought that bush out from under me really liked the idea. And he got his distiller's license and he took that 2400 tap and he started making whiskey and selling it. And then he would also make an infused like that where he'd take bourbon and put an ounce or two of maple syrup in it, but it's going to take a lot of marketing to make that work because it's a very expensive sugar.
Yeah.
If you're using your table, maybe if you use your late buddy later, you'd be okay. But you still got to market because you're competing against Buffalo Trace.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
You either got to market with them or you got to be in a tasting booth every day for the rest of your life. And that's what I do with my maple syrup. I'm in a grocery store once or twice a month giving out samples.
Oh, sure.
And you can sell as much as you want. Every one of these high V's will let me in there.
Okay.
The guy that you avoid at the door, that's me.
We have another question. Somebody asking again, how many trees do you tap at a time?
I have about 450 taps. So I have less trees than that. I'm on 2 acres of silver maples. And when somebody tells you that you got 100 and that'd be 220 taps in an acre, they're going to wonder. But it was in I'm going to say somewhere around the war, this guy went to war and never came home. And that farm just fell in. I remember pheasant hunting this old abandoned building site throughout the 70s because it was just all grass. And then in 2001, we went through there. We had a really good pheasant year and we pushed one out of the ditch and it flew up there. So we walked up there and I was walking down the old driveway and it was all canopy with maples. And it's like, wow, what happened here? And I think in about 1925, they planted 2 silver maples at the end of the driveway. And eventually outside of one fence line where the sheep couldn't get at them, they grew up, and it's all overgrown from there. Now it won't always be this many because it's so thick that a lot of these trees are going to die out and eventually the tap count will go down. But I think sugar production should stay the same. So it's going to be fun to see. I started doing circumference measurements on the trees because one thing when you go to these clinics, they don't want you over tapping these trees because what happens over time is every time you drill a hole in that tree that becomes non-conductive wood, won't transfer sap. And if you start going around a tree that grows real slow, before you know it, you ringed it. But I think the silver maple grows 3/8 of an inch on a side every year, so in 8-10 years, I'll be over that. And I got 3 or 4 feet up and down to tap in. So it's like, I'm at the point where I'm going to start putting a lot of holes in these trees. They also tell you the second tap hole in a tree only gains you 20% more sap. Right.
Okay.
So, you're going to go down to the bar and there's a guy giving away gold. Are you going to take the 20% more if you got to go to the other door, or are you just going to take the $100?
Right.
I'm going to go to the other door and get the other 20% because I'm not worried about killing the tree, and that's cream on the crop. So I am trying to develop a good, safe tapping practice for silver maples in my region that's highly productive.
That's awesome.
Yeah, hopefully.
And again, we learned tonight more things keep getting invented from Minnesota, and I don't see it's that slowing down anytime soon, right, Eric?
I'm not going to comment. I'm going to leave that alone. All right. All I can tell you is I know where chicken came from.
So where's your home state now? Is it Kentucky or Pennsylvania?
It's Kentucky. I'm in Kentucky. Yeah.
So Kentucky they're famous for a lot of things.
Oh yeah, moonshine, moonshine, moonshine,
horses?
and moonshine, and more moonshine.
Yeah.
I mean, bourbon. Come on now, I can give you some moonshine now if you want it. There's a lot of that crap that grows around here. Get it?
There's so much interesting history over that industry.
Yeah.
I can't get enough of it. And the characters that play it.
Yeah.
And they're so real. You know that Buffalo Trace deal where they were stealing the bourbon?
Yeah.
You know that story, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it just blows me away. I don't know.
You know, when I first moved here, I got to know a few people, and all once at 2:00 in the morning, I hear a vehicle pull up in front of my house, and I'm like, they just got in my mailbox.
Oh.
And I'm like, what the heck are they doing? So I went out, and I'm like, very slowly, because I was a past police officer, I figured someone found me and just put a bomb in my mailbox, you know?
Yep.
I slowly open it, and here's this jug of moonshine in there with a note stuck to it. Try this.
Welcome to the neighborhood.
I love their marketing scheme.
Oh, that is Kentucky's. It's your mailbox, and you got to get to it before the post office gets there.
Otherwise, the mailman takes it.
Oh, they see, the best part of it is you put the money in your mailbox at midnight. At 2:00 in the morning, they deliver the moonshine, and then you got to get it the hell out of there before the post office gets there.
This sounds like an awesome maple syrup marketing scheme.
It's like the best. And I learned that when I first moved here. I'm like, damn, that's how they deliver that shit. No one ever gets caught.
That's funny. It sounds like the beginning of a Dukes of Hazzard episode right there.
Right.
Yeah, it's amazing. You know, and what's funny, it is back years ago in Kentucky, I think you could pretty much say it to anyone and you would get moonshine. Now it's like so sealed mouth. Oh. No, and no one, but you never hear about anyone getting arrested no more for it. You know, you just don't hear all the rambling. If you watch some of the videos back years ago in Kentucky, the chases and the moonshine stills that they come in and smashed up and blew up with dynamite, and it just, that doesn't happen no more. But there's still a bunch of people that make it that no one even knows that they make it.
Yep.
So
that's the good stuff.
So do you ever watch that Moonshiner show? You think any of that's real?
I've never seen it.
I think a lot of it's horseshit, to be honest with you, from what I see here, because if they're doing it, you know damn well they're going to get the guys that are doing it supposedly illegally.
Yeah.
I mean, it's showing their face, showing them doing it illegally. They can arrest from that. So there's got to be some bull crap behind that.
I've learned so much from that show, though.
Yeah.
They really have. They know what they're talking about.
That's funny.
It is. It really is.
I mean, back when I first moved here, I was told by a couple people, be careful getting moonshine off Jim, Joe, and Steve. And I'm like, why? And he said, well, you may have battery acid, you may have, you know, and I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah, they use everything in their moonshine. And I'm like, holy, and if they're really drunk, you don't want to buy from them because it's really horrible. So, yeah.
Gross.
It's
I
pretty
had a
good.
guy tell me he put hydrogen peroxide in his sap.
Oh.
Why
Well,
would you do that?
because oxygen supposedly makes the sap last longer, and hydrogen
Really?
peroxide has a lot of oxygen in it, I think.
And we use it on the farm fields. I'm sure you guys do too up there, don't you?
Yeah, what's it called though? It's not called.
No, it's not called. It's not called that, but that's what's in it when we put it on our fields, and it grows like a foot within a week.
Okay.
It
But he said he
explodes.
put it in there to basically keep it longer. Oxygen evidently will help sap stay stable longer in some situations, I guess.
Okay.
But that was an old trick that the guy used, and it's just gonna go away to oxygen anyway, right?
I suppose.
You brought up earlier about storing. That was one thing my granddad always said. You know, the quicker you get that sap and boil it, the better off you are. Don't ever let it store for 3, 4, 5 days, because
that's the same way I am now.
Yeah, he was really, when we had to, but we used an old bucket. We had several old buckets that we would hang. He would take a tree. I'm trying to remember the tree that he used to get. It had the core in it, the soft core, and he would punch that out.
Oh, sycamore. No.
Sumac.
Yeah.
Sumac. He
I
would
have
punch out
over there.
Yeah, he'd punch out the core and then drill the hole with one of them old drill things, and we would pound that rod into the tree, and then he would take a wire and put around it and hang that bucket underneath. Yep. But we would do enough, like we'd have 40, 50 buckets out there.
Oh yeah.
Just so we could get a gallon.
Yep.
As quick as we could. You know what I mean? To
make. You want to have enough sap to boil.
Right.
Yep. Interesting. It's good
now
stuff.
they use 5-gallon buckets with lids on them. And I was like, wow, why didn't we ever? But I don't remember having 5-gallon buckets like that when I was a kid.
You know, when I started, there weren't that prevalent. I had to go to bakeries and get them from the bakeries.
Right.
Really?
Yeah. Now you can go to Home Depot or Menards or wherever you're.
When I first started getting 5-gallon buckets, that I remember is when I was a conservation officer. We used to get peanut butter from Hershey, PA, to use to trap black bear. Okay. We would snare black bear, and they would ship us up their old peanut butter in 5-gallon buckets. And they had the lids on them, so it was kind of neat the way that worked out, you know.
Yep.
But that was really the first I started seeing them like flourish, the 5-gallon buckets then. So
that's the craze now. See them all the time. I just never tried. Eric, I think you should try to tap some of those sycamores and see what happens. I think that'd be a good experiment.
Or at least
I'm gonna need Joe if I do that, because I have no idea what I'm doing with sycamore or a walnut. We got a lot of pecan, black walnut, sycamore. So yeah, I
bet it would be tasty.
Sounds like you got a nice variety of syrups.
Yeah,
good in your showroom.
I've never done them. We always did maple.
Well, you're waiting for the water to go down. You could have been making syrup.
Yeah.
How am I going to make syrup?
You got to have trees on high ground, I guess. Or
I need a boat.
Well, you know what? I started following this guy on TikTok, and he's got a basement in a pond, what looks like a pond, and his sap line comes right in at water level.
Oh, wow.
And he's got a steel container buried, and all his equipment is below water. And then he pumps it out.
Wow.
And it blows me away. The balls this man has to invest in that.
Wow.
And it's like crazy. That when I see somebody doing something that's out of the ordinary and they're risking, my hat goes off to them. You know, and then when they pull it off, it's even sweeter. So, yeah. You know what happened to me the other day?
What's that?
We went and got our taxes done.
Gross.
Right? No. And we've been doing our taxes for the longest time, but with this new Sapmaster business, and my mother-in-law has been helping me, it's time to go professional. She's not gonna be around forever. A kid that went and played hockey with my boy that I coached hockey, he's my new tax accountant.
Okay.
So I'm thrilled. You watch this boy grow up, and now he's successful, and he's going to help me. So it's like, I think I like to see people succeed, and you don't know these people you see when they're young, and then you don't see them for 25 years, and all of a sudden they're successful.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's great. All right. Well, I think we covered as much as we could for tonight.
Cool.
It's time for our recipe portion. And of course, since we're talking syrup and maple syrup, we had to have a maple type of a recipe. So Joe, thanks for coming on. We appreciate your time. We appreciate your knowledge and sharing that knowledge with us. It was great fun for me. Eric, do you have any other questions? Am I forgetting anything?
No. You're good.
Thank you guys.
Thanks, Joe. We appreciate it.
You bet.
All right, let's take a look at our recipe for the week. So this week we've got baked maple and chipotle wings. We love wings. We all love wings. And why not? And I had some chipotle wings yesterday, like a dry rub. Oh, mama, they were delicious. And when I saw this recipe, I'm like, wow, I need to try this. Maple chipotle wings. Would you try maple chipotle wings?
Yeah, I probably would try it. Yeah, I love wings, though. I do love wings.
Yeah, they're the best thing in the world.
Yeah, they are great. They are really good.
So good. And once again, I think I forgot to put last week's recipe in the Discord, but I will put that one and this one in there tonight. ! Discord if you're in the Twitch chat, or check out the link for the Discord down below in the description on YouTube. And once again, don't forget our sponsors, Texas Select Seasonings, 15% off your order. Casa Camo in all caps is your discount code. ! CARC. Check out all the new CARC boats for the year. Deer 30, ! Deer 30, get 24% off by adding Casa Camo 24 as your discount code. ! Vexen, get 15% off your order with the Vexen fishing rods and reels, etc., etc. Casa Camo in all lowercase. And then last but not least, Behave, and use Casa Camo in all caps to get 10% off your order for that all natural product. Good show. That was fun. I would love for you to figure out a way to tap into those sycamores and see what happens, because I bet it would be good.
I have no idea on sycamore. I mean, like he said, maybe there's different things I need to do to it, like a walnut, because I don't know. I'd have to read up on it.
Yep. Find somebody. You can find somebody. Send Ryan out there. He'll learn how to do it, right?
Oh yeah, he definitely would, as long as it. Never mind.
He's gonna use that to infuse things.
Yeah.
Yep. Why not? All right. Well, that's all we have for tonight. Eric, that was fun.
Yes,
it was good to hang out again.
Enjoyed it.
So and Easter next week. Is it Easter next week?
Yes.
So we're no show next week. I'm not even going to be around.
No, I'm not going to be around either. I got to go with the Easter Bunny next week. So
you bringing me eggs and candy?
No, well, no. I have to deliver to a new company that's opening up in Minnesota, a new inventor.
You have to deliver some walnuts, some black walnuts.
Yeah, I'm going to deliver them
pecans?
To Buzzard.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to go up and thump him a couple times. Then we're going to go fishing and out to dinner, and then I get to come home.
Nice. That's awesome. All right. Well, then we'll be back on the 27th, and I think we have some exciting. We're working on some exciting guests, right, Eric? You've been chit-chatting with some folks. I'm pumped up for those guests. We'll announce those once we know dates for sure. But until then, for Casa Camo, I'm Todd.
And I'm Eric.
We'll see you guys next time.